So let's take a look now at some handy keyboard tips and toolbar tips for the toolbar and the palettes. The first one here is if we hit the letter M on the keyboard, we're going to go to the marquees, which is opposite the move tool, which is the arrow at the top there. If we click back onto V, V will always take us back to the move tool at the top. If we hit B, we go to the brushes. If we hit P, we go to the pen. T will take us to the type tool. Z will take us to the zoom tool. H will take us to the hand tool, but we're going to elaborate on that a bit further down the line. W will take us to the magic wand. C will take us to the crop tool. S will take us to the clone stamp. We have E for eraser, and G will take us to the gradient tool. If I hit the I key on the keyboard, I will go to the eyedropper. Now, one of my favourite little tips in Photoshop for moving through some of the actual toolbar palettes is, as we know on the toolbar, where we have a small little black triangle at the bottom of the palette, we have more tools sitting underneath. A nice little keyboard tip for this is if you hold the Alt key on the keyboard and then you click with the mouse, you'll see how it scrolls you through those actual toolbar kind of tools, and you don't have to keep clicking and holding down the mouse. So nice little kind of set of keyboard keys there for the actual toolbar itself. Some additional ones to go with this would be, and I'll just hit V to go back to the move tool, we've basically got F6, which will open up the colour palette, F7, particularly handy for opening and closing the layers palette, and then we also have F8 for opening up the info palette. And if we click back onto these, that will close them all back down. Probably one of my favourite keyboard shortcuts of all time has to be if we hit B for brushes, we go to the brush tool, and if we look at the letter P on the keyboard, what we'll notice is that once we go to our brush tool, if we go to P and look at the brackets to the right of the letter P, the right bracket will make the tool bigger and the left bracket will make the tool smaller. As we know in Photoshop, many tools we use are using the brush size and hardness, which are these settings at the top, to control how the tool performs. So if we want to basically use something like the clone stamp, so if I hit S, you'll see that these bracket keys, if I click on the right bracket, it makes the tool bigger, and the left bracket makes the tool smaller. One little top tip in Photoshop is let's stay well away from the caps lock, because if we hit caps lock, you'll notice that we don't see the tool getting bigger or smaller, we just see a little cross. If I hit B for brushes, again, which takes us back to the brush tool, we can incorporate one more keyboard shortcut with this if we want to increase the hardness or the softness of the tool. Incorporating the shift key with the right bracket makes the tool or the brush harder. If we use shift key and the left bracket, it will make the brush or the tool softer. And quickly now, if I hit V, I go back to the move tool. So if I just come over to my swatches here and click on this magenta colour, I'm sure many of you know that we have our foreground and our background colour, which are displayed here in the toolbar in Photoshop. If at any point you want to get back to the default foreground and background colour in Photoshop, which is indeed black and white, you can click on the little icon here, but a nice little keyboard tip for this is to hit the letter D on your keyboard, and that will automatically make the foreground and background colour set back to the defaults. Another nice handy little keyboard tip for foreground and background colour is the X key on the keyboard, and as you can see here, if I hit my X key, you can see them alternate backwards and forwards, particularly handy when we're working with masks and brushes. If we want to hide our palettes at any point, we can hit Shift and Tab, and that will hide the palettes and free up a little bit more screen space for us. And lastly, my last final little tip, which is my favourite one, really for the toolbar, is, and not a lot of people do know this, even people that have been using Photoshop for a long time, is my favourite little one, is to make sure that when we're working on the move tool, we always have the auto select ticked on. If I hit F7 quickly and open up my layers, what you'll notice now is that if I open my layers palette right up and we click around inside the document, we'll start to select automatically any of the layers that we click on because the auto select has been ticked on. Well worth working with, and I don't think you can really use Photoshop quickly and efficiently without it. For more information on our Photoshop courses, both online and classroom, you can click on this link and visit our website.